everybody, and welcome back. My name is Cursive, and welcome back to another video. Today we are here to do a cute little deck profile that I've been working on. Today we actually have a Dark Magician OTK deck profile here. This is obviously not a competitive deck, but it is a lot of fun to play, especially when it works out and you do get that OTK. So let's not waste any more time and let's get right into it. So first things first here, we have our skill, and like most OTK gimmick decks, we are running the good old digging for gold skill. We got David here. Basically this skill just states, activate the skill during your main phase. Once per duel, you can banish 3 cards from your graveyard, then draw 1 card. Just an easy +1. Since you're going to be going second to OTK, it basically gives you a 6-card hand out of a 20-card deck, and it's just a good card to, you know, help you get to those, help you dig, help you get to what you need at a quicker rate. So we got the one David with that digging for gold. Now, as I did just say, this is a Dark Magician OTK deck, so naturally we have 3 copies of the boy himself. We have 3 copies of Dark Magician. He is basically, he's just a big body. He can deal a lot of damage, and if your opponent has no board, he can fairly easily go for that quick game. That's if you have multiples, but naturally, as I just said, you need multiples to go for that game, or you need at least one more strong monster. So we have the girl herself, Dark Magician Girl. Obviously, Dark Magician Girl plus a little spell card known as Sage's Stone can turbo out Dark Magician, and Dark Magician plus Dark Magician Girl is an easy 4,500 damage, which is more than your opponent's life points and would be a complete OTK. But before we can even worry about getting Dark Magician on the field, we have to worry about getting Dark Magician Girl on the field. Bet most of you guys can guess what's coming up next. We have 3 copies of Legion the Fiend Jester. Obviously this guy gives you an extra normal summon for a spellcaster monster, so he's easy access into a Dark Magician Girl with this guy on the field. And finally, to round off our monster lineup, we run 1 copy of the brand new Dark Magician support, but not really. We have 1 copy of Toon Dark Magician. You could run any Toon Dark monster, so you could run Master Sorcerer if you want, but Toon Dark Magician just literally fits the archetype, so I kind of had to run him. So that's it for the monsters. Going off to the spells here, we run 3 copies of Toon Table of Contents. The important thing about Toon Table of Contents is obviously that it allows you to deck thin. You can play Toon Table, get Toon Table, play Toon Table, get Toon Table, play Toon Table, get Toon Table, and get your Toon Dark Magician at the end of the cycle, allowing you to cycle through all copies of Toon Table of Contents and thin out your deck by 3 cards. But what else is very, very important about Toon Table of Contents is that it puts 3 cards in graveyard for digging for gold. So 1 Toon Table in hand is an instant +1 off of digging for gold, and a nice deck thin by 4. So Toon Table is very, very important for this deck. Next off, we have, you guessed it, 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. We're running an OTK deck. We need draw power beyond just digging for gold and beyond just Toon Table thinning. We need Allure of Darkness. Obviously all of our monsters are dark monsters. That's why the Toon monster that you're playing needs to be a dark. Toon Dark Magician works for that attribute because we need more Allure targets. Every monster is an Allure target. We have 3 Allure. Bada bing, bada boom. Next up, we have 3 copies of Sage's Stone. As I mentioned to you guys, this is the card that turbos out your Dark Magician. We need to see Dark Magician as quick as possible. We need to see Dark Magician Girl as quick as possible. We need the Sage's Stone to get the damage on board to go ahead and go in for that OTK. This is needed as a 3 of, and technically you either want to see 2 of these or 1 of these and 1 of another card, but we'll get into that in a second. The next card we have is 2 copies of Dark Magic Attack. This is obviously your back row hate. You could run Night Beams if you prefer that in the main deck, but I do like Dark Magic Attack since most of the back row you're going to currently see is going to be Zoma and Nightmare Wheel, and Dark Magic Attack does take care of both of those cards and wipes the entire back row. So even if they have 3 Zoma or 2 Nightmare Wheel and a Zoma, or maybe they have a Dust back there, we don't have to worry about it. If you do see that they're running a Floodgate or a Windstorm or something like that, we do have Night Beams in the side deck, but this is what I would recommend for the main deck. And then finally, the other card that you could draw as potential for the OTK, instead of 2 copies of Sage of Stone, we have the 1 copy of Thousand Knives. Obviously, why either one of these are an option, we either need a free Dark Magician to kill the monster to be able to go into for an OTK, or we need Thousand Knives to kill the monster for us to be able to go into going for an OTK. Obviously, this is a OTK deck, so there are no trap cards, because trap cards are too slow. We just want to see the spells. So obviously that's it for the main deck here. So now going off to the side deck, we have 3 copies of Night Beam. So this is pretty obvious what it's for. It's obviously for when you're playing against a deck that is playing cards like Floodgate, cards like Windstorm, and you can't commit monsters to the board until you can start removing back row. You put in these 2 Night Beams. Now obviously, you're normally going to run into things like Floodgate and Windstorm against burn decks that are doing a lot of burning. So you do kind of have the option to side out Thousand Knives, since a lot of these burn decks basically don't summon monsters very often. They usually only run 1 normal summon monster, and besides that they rely on having Zoma on field or just burn damage. So Night Beam is very, very good against these matchups. You can take out Thousand Knives from your deck, and it opens you up to get through those problematic cards. Next off, we have 1 copy of Thousand Knives in the side deck. Obviously, this is for the Gaia matchup more than anything. Gaia can be a very big issue, especially if he's equipped with Bashing Shield. If Gaia's with Bashing Shield, we don't have an out to Gaia besides Thousand Knives, and we don't need any back row removal, so we do have 2 copies of Thousand Knives. You normally hold on to a Night Beam in this matchup as well, just in case they don't summon Gaia and they have a set copy of Offerings to the Doomed. You need to be able to Night Beam that before you summon a monster. So Night Beam is also very important for that matchup. And then finally, we have a card that some of you might question. We have 2 copies of Jar of Greed. So obviously, this is a trap card. It is just a neutral, lets you draw 1. It's 22 card main deck. Why are you running Jar of Greed in the side? This is if you're forced to go first. Obviously, this deck wants to go second, but most decks in the format want to go second. So if you get forced to go first, if you win game 1, or if you're going into game 3, or whatever the circumstance is, you side on these Jar of Greeds to go first, thin out as much as you can, and hope that you have 2 Jar of Greeds to then go ahead and set, and pop them during your following turn. Not many decks can OTK you, so you're not too worried about going second and just passing with an empty board, except for Jar of Greed. So it's really not a big deal. You basically just dex in as much as you can during your turn 1, pass turn, and hope for the best when you draw. Finally, we have the useless extra deck. I was actually going to take out just like all the foils that I have, but I was too lazy, so I literally just have the exact same extra deck that I ran with Thousand Eyes Restrict, because like I said, I was just too lazy to get my other extra deck cards. So yeah, just a useless extra deck, literally does nothing, but it exists, and you always want to have an extra deck just in case your opponent thinks you might be able to go into it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and shuffle up this deck for you guys, and I'm going to do my best to show you guys the full combo here for the OTK. So obviously what I just did is I pile shuffled. It's going to give me a nice even distribution of the cards in my deck, and should technically increase the odds of me seeing the combo, but we shall see. Okay, so this opening hand, I'll go ahead and put my deck over here. This opening hand isn't actually bad at all. I'll put these cards over to the side. Reason being is these actually are 3 cards towards the combo. And obviously, we do have our good old Toon Table of Contents. So what we're going to do here is we are going to Toon Table, into Toon Table, into Toon Table, and we are going to end up grabbing a copy of Toon Dark Magician to our hand here. So we'll go ahead and shuffle up the deck here now, as you can see. So now we have 3 copies of Toon Table in our graveyard. At this point, we're going to go ahead and flip our Digging for Gold, banish all 3 copies of Toon Table of Contents, we'll just put them up there, and we get to draw one. Okay, not the best draw, we hit a Dark Magician. We're still missing 2 cards towards the combo. We do have access to our Allure of Darkness. There's another card towards the combo, and there's Legion the Fiend Jester. That is the last card to go towards the combo. We go ahead and banish that Toon Dark Magician, and this Allure of Darkness is in the grave. It can go over there. So, as you can see here, we have 6 cards in our hand. It is a 5-card combo, so how often you're going to hit it? Not all the time, but does it work? Yes. So, what we're going to go ahead and do at this point is normal summon out our Legion the Fiend Jester here. Obviously, when he's normal summon, we do get an extra normal summon for any spellcaster monster. Now, if you did have Legion and Dark Magician Girl in your hand before you allured, you would go ahead and deck thin by tributing off the Legion, normal summoning Dark Magician Girl, and using Legion's search effect to deck thin and get a Dark Magician to hand. So if you do have that option, you do always do it, because you want to deck thin as much as possible before you do your draws. That's obviously going to increase your likelihood of actually seeing what you need to see. So we'll say my opponent has a full back row and they have 1 monster on board. So we go ahead and activate Sage's Stone here. This will allow us to special summon out the Dark Magician from deck. So obviously now we have a Dark Magician Girl and a Dark Magician on field. That is more than enough damage to game our opponent. Now that we have Dark Magician on board, we can go ahead and activate our 1,000 Knives. We pop our opponent's singular monster. Then we activate Dark Magic Attack. They don't have any responses, it's just Zomas and Nightmare Wheels, and maybe Dust Tornadoes, but who cares about that. We just wipe their entire back row, and at this point we have our lethal on board. We have Dark Magician 2500, Dark Magician Girl 2000, and that is lethal damage to our opponent. So, does this deck work all the time? No, not at all. But if you're looking for something fun to play, you're looking for something fun to do, you're just bored and you want to have fun with the game, this is a really, really fun deck, and it feels great to actually OTK your opponent. Obviously, the biggest issue with this deck is not even drawing the combo. You actually hit the combo a decent bit. The biggest issue with the deck is running into Sphere Karibo. Sphere Karibo has a lot of potency, has a lot of is seeing a lot of play. There we go. In this current meta, between Moth playing Dark Moth, Burn not wanting to summon monsters and running Sphere Karibo for more protection, Gaia not being able to set cards, Sphere Karibo for protection, etc., etc. So it is seeing a lot of play, and because of that, it does hinder basically all OTK decks a lot. But that's all you can do. These are just here for a bit of fun. We never want to see an OTK deck be meta anyway, but this is probably the best way to play Dark Magician, because Dark Magician right now is actually pretty garbage. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button and also consider subscribing. And yeah, if you guys do manage to hit some OTKs here, go ahead and tweet me the replays. That'd be fantastic. My Twitter is always linked in the description below, and I'd love to check out what you guys do with this deck. Anyway, that's a wrap, guys. Peace.